What you see here is the simple method. There would be some issues with these methods, but the more advanced will be discussed on my Patreon, which generates realistic wrinkles and the object will react to the wrinkles. For this tutorial, we will learn the most important aspect of the animation. In Cinema 4D we have a jiggle deformer and collision deformer which lets us recreate the cloth simulation. One of the things we have in Blender is shrink wrap modifier, which has an option to do something close to collision deformer in Cinema 4D. I just want to review this trick before we get started. Add a plane object and subdivide it several times. The more subdivision you have here, the more realistic animation you get. Add a sphere to let the collision happens. Let's add a shrink wrap modifier to the plane. We want to tell Blender to deform the plane as soon as the sphere gets closer to the plane. So we set the snap mode to outside and select the sphere as target. As you can see, nothing happens. To fix this, we play with the offset value and increase it a little bit. We need a subdivision modifier to smooth the plane out. This quick solution was to demonstrate how we are recreating the collision part for faking the cloth simulation. We use a different method which we get into it in a few minutes. For the first part we will recreate the cloth wrinkles. I must repeat that the easy method doesn't generate realistic cloth wrinkles, but in the one I publish on my Patreon, we will learn a different method. As usual, we add a plane and subdivide it. Before we add a modifier, we need to apply the scale. Press Ctrl and A on your keyboard and apply the scale. We need to add a displace modifier to create the wrinkles somehow. For texture we use wood preset and pattern would be band noise to have a wavy pattern as displacement. The things we do is playing with some values to get closer to my desired look. But you're free to play with values. We decrease the strength of the displacement to have shorter bumps. The displacement led to sharp edges. We will fix that by adding a subdivision modifier below the displacer modifier. Now we made something. Let's learn how to animate the wrinkles. We add an empty object to control the displacer modifier. So, when we move the empty object, the wrinkles will move. Select the plane. Expand the displacer modifier and set the coordinates to object. Now select the empty object as the one affects the displacement. As you can see, when we move the empty object, the displacement follows the empty object. We animate the position of the empty object to animate the wrinkles of the plane. The animation will have 144 frames length. I still don't like the wrinkles. It's all because of the number of the subdivisions. The more subdivisions you have, the more smaller wrinkles you get. So I try to reduce the number of subdivisions. It's like we are wasting our time by unsubdividing the plane. Let's create a new plane and apply the displacement to it. This time we use 16 segments instead of 24 segments we have used earlier. We scale up the plane to have bigger wrinkles. Also, I think the speed of the wrinkles is fast a little for a cloth. So, we adjust the position of the empty object. I like wrinkles a little bit more than what we had earlier. Before we improve the wrinkles a bit, we add a camera and set its view. We want the camera has the same view as we have. You can select the camera and use this shortcut. We adjust the camera position. There is nothing to explain for now. I want to have a black frame around the camera, as I don't like to see the area, which has no effect on the result. Inside camera settings, viewport display, there is an option, and when you set its value to 1, the area out of the camera view will be blacked out. Let's get back to our plane and try to improve the wrinkles. We use a wave modifier. It must be used as first modifier, so it will be placed at the top of the modifiers list. Honestly, I used this modifier before once for this tutorial, so I don't remember how it works now, but let's learn how we can make the waves slow. Okay. The wave speed can be negative and it will slow down the speed of the modifier. I had to make a cut as I couldn't generate what I had in mind. I looked into the one I created before and adjusted some values. We placed the wave modifier at the bottom of the modifiers list. Wave modifier lets you use a texture. Again, we need to have a wavy texture. So, we adjust the values as I did. We set the size of the texture to 2. Now get back to the modifiers list and select the weight modifier again. Height value will set the height of the small wrinkles. For texture coordinates, select Local again. We export the plane object as an Alembic file. We have some settings there which I explained. We don't want to export all objects, so we need to check the selected objects. Also, we need Blender applies the subdivision modifier to the plane before exports it. We have exported our Alembic file. We need to hide the original plane object and import the Alembic file. Add a subdivision modifier to smooth the wrinkles, but since it affects the speed of the animation, we hide it in the viewport. Let's add our rolling object. We add a cylinder. We remove the top face but keep the face at the bottom. We need to smooth the cylinder, so we add a subdivision modifier. We have a topology problem. Before we fix that, add a solidify modifier to add thickness to the object. Let shade smooth the object. As a tip, when shade smooth does too much and fades away the edges of an object, you just need to enable Auto Smooth. For people who use Cinema 4D, you might know Shade Smooth is enabled by default in Cinema 4D by using a font tag for the objects. To fix the look of our cylinder, we add a bevel modifier to the cylinder, adjust it. Apply the bevel and solidify modifiers as we want to apply 3 textures to the cylinder in the second part of this video, which will be published on my Patreon only. We find a good position to place the cylinder over the surface of the cloth object. You can use the snap mode to do so, but I didn't. Now we want to do something to let the cloth object has effects on the placement of our cylinder. We use shrink wrap for our cylinder, but not as a modifier. We add it as an object constraint. We set the target to plane as it controls the position of our cylinder. We change the snap mode to outside and add some offset to not let the object collide with the cloth. Let's play the animation. As you can see, the cloth object affects the movement of our cylinder a bit. Now we told Blender to move the cylinder along the ways we got over the cloth object. This one only makes the cylinder follows the path but doesn't let it move on Y-axis. So, we need to animate the Y position of the cylinder. As you can see, something is happening, but Sphere still ignores some parts of the cloth object and moves straight. We need to adjust the snap mode of the shrink wrap constraint. We set the snap mode to on surface and also remove offset. It's time to deform the cloth object as soon as the cylinder moves along the waves. The cloth object needs a shrink wrap deformer, or you can even use a cast deformer. I use a cast deformer to deform the cloth object when the cylinder moves. I want the cylinder leaves a trace, and I use a cast deformer to fake this. As you can see, the sphere caused a big hole over the surface of the cloth object. I make a cut to adjust the values and continue the last part of this tutorial. Like many other methods which fakes a simulation, this method has its own downsides. One of the issues is there is no physics. So, the object will just move, but nothing affects it or slows the object down. Also, sometimes at some frames there is a position change which is visible. So we need to play with the camera at those frames to not let the issues be visible. I will teach you this in the second part. Again, at the more advanced version I upload on Patreon, we use a different method which doesn't have any downside. I suggest you don't miss that. Let's check the options of the cast modifier. We set the shape to sphere, set the factor to low value like 0.02, and object must be set to the cylinder. We got a glitch now, but it's all because how the waves are animated. We increased the radius now to a high number like 2.3 to increase the effect. We will learn the second part and the more advanced version which the object reacts to the physics on my Patreon. Please subscribe to my Patreon for better tutorials.